Alright guys, welcome. This is the week 12 video. It's about cells and their organelles. And I'm actually going to break this video into two parts. The first part we're going to cover some differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And then we're going to talk about eukaryotic cells and a lot of the organelles that all eukaryotic cells have. And then I'll stop and I'll make a new video about the differences between plant and animal cells, which are the two main types of eukaryotic cells. Okay, so, but before we get into the content this time, I did want to talk about the class the last couple weeks and the feedback you gave me the day after the test. I also want to talk about grading. Alright, so first off, so I hope the class has been going well for you the last couple weeks. I'm home. My babies are home safe and all that. It's all good. I've stopped by a few times, and some of you have seen me. Some of you haven't. But it's going to continue kind of running how it is. I hope it's going well for you. I do want to tell you that you guys can still email and text me with any questions. I've been answering those periodically from students who have gotten to me. But I am available every day for that. So if you have any questions that Coach Gray can't get for you, I can answer them for you by text or email. Okay, so that's still available. The feedback after the test. Okay, so there's basically three things that came up again and again. The number one thing is that Mr. Strohmeyer doesn't teach his class. Okay, and that's legitimate feedback, and some of you guys, I'm sure, feel very strongly about that. But again, you guys, this class is going to run differently than other classes. Okay, I'm asking you to take on a more active role in your education. Okay, it's just not me telling you the stuff you need to know. You're being asked to actively seek out and gain that information for yourselves. Okay, you guys, I know it's easier for me to just tell you this stuff. Okay, but really you're not going to learn it better that way. Okay, education is changing. Okay, and this is going to be the model you'll see probably going forward in a lot of your classes. Okay, so maybe see this as an opportunity to learn a new system. If you guys don't like that, when I come back next semester, we can talk about ways to tweak it. But it's not going away. Okay, you're going to be responsible for learning the material and being active in your own education. So I'm sorry if you don't like that, but that's just kind of how it's going to be. So start working towards getting those skills. Okay, the other thing I saw a lot was the test. Okay, the test was hard. And along with that was the study guide. You guys didn't get the study guide. So you guys' tests are going to be hard. You need to study for them at least 1 to 2 hours, okay, to pass. If you're looking for the A to B, you're looking at studying 3 or more hours. Okay, that's the reality of my tests. They're hard, and they expect you to know the content that you're supposed to be learning in class. Okay, I gave you the study guide, and there's a complaint that you had limited time for the study guide. I posted it up. Your test was on Wednesday. It was posted up a week early on the website on Wednesday afternoon. And then I gave you copies on Thursday. Okay, and then some of you guys didn't get copies till Friday because I ran out on 7th period, but only like 10 students fall into that category. Okay, so check the website, you guys. And I told you in class that it was up. Okay, so maybe listen a little bit more closely in class, and so you're getting the things that you need. Okay, if I'm not getting you something, okay, call me out on it and text or email me that, and I'll fix it. Okay, but you guys had a week with the study guide. Okay, that's enough time. All right, so that's kind of covers the three things I saw most often in the feedback. All right, so we're going to go through this on the cells. So let's go ahead and get in here. Okay, the cell. There are two main types, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and this is what was covered last week. So this is a bit of review. All right. Prokaryotic cells, okay, these are bacteria cells, okay? When you get down to the Greek meaning of this word, pro means no in Greek, and keri means kernel, okay, so no kernel, okay, so that means no nucleus. The people who first had these rudimentary microscopes thought that was like the nut or the kernel of the cell, okay, think of like an almond or something like that, okay? Now, prokaryotic cells are more ancient type. Okay, they're much more simple, so they do not have organelles that eukaryotic cells have. Okay, but they do have ribosomes. Okay, so that's the main thing. Not much to look at in a prokaryotic cell. Okay, so here's a picture of it. Okay, there's 3 layers on the outside. You have a capsule, which is a waxy outer layer for protection. Then you have the cell wall, kind of like a plant cell, but it's made of different stuff. And then you have the cell membrane. Okay, so a 3-layer system on the outside. And then inside you have a piece of DNA, which is a loop, and ribosomes. And that's pretty much it. Okay, and then on these outside you have pili and flagellum, which are for motion. Okay, they use that to move. All right, eukaryotic cells are the other type. All multicellular organisms are eukaryotic. Okay, so think plant and animal cells, but also things like fungi and protists. Okay, fall into this. Okay, so this word means you, meaning true, and karyotic meaning kernel, so true kernel. Okay, and that leads you to the meaning has a nucleus. Okay, and there's much more stuff going on in the cell. It has many of these what we call membrane-bound organelles. Okay, which we're going to talk about today. Okay, but its defining feature always is a nucleus. Okay, so this is a onion skin cell, which you guys should see in lab yesterday and today. And yeah, if it has a nucleus, it's definitely a eukaryotic cell, and then you just have to determine whether it's a plant or animal cell based on its shape. Okay, so the evolution of cells, it branched very early. Okay, so bacteria took one evolutionary track, and eukarya took another evolutionary track. So bacteria stayed fairly simple and small, okay, and reproduced much faster, okay, kind of a different take on their lifestyle. And then eukarya went bigger, more complex. Okay, now in the middle here we have a unique set of cells called archaea. Okay, and these are kind of a cross between bacteria and eukarya cells. They're simple, they have some membrane-bound organelles, but not all of them. And this is a fairly new distinction. In the last 5 years, we've made this archaea phylogenetic part of the tree. Okay, so we'll talk more about those when we talk about evolution. I just wanted to introduce that idea today. A little bit closer look at it. All right, so all eukaryotic cells have these organelles. Okay, so I'd like this video to be paused for a minute so you guys can write these down, and I'm going to talk about each one individually in this lecture. Okay, but this is your main terms for this part of the lecture. Okay, so go ahead and pause right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go down this list and talk about each one. Okay, the nucleus, again, it's the most obvious organelle in the cell. Okay, so it's going to have this kind of nut or kernel in the middle, and its function is to contain the DNA. Okay, the DNA is very, very important. Okay, we don't want it broken or damaged, and so the nucleus protects it in this region. Okay, inside the nucleus we have another little area called the nucleolus. Okay, now the nucleolus is where the ribosomes are actually produced, okay, and made. And there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that when we talk about proteins. But for now, you just have to know the nucleolus is where the ribosomes are made. Okay, the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the jelly inside the cell. Okay, the organelles float inside of it. Okay, now here's kind of a cool little video while you write this down and kind of just peek at. Okay, so this is a paramecium. Okay, and it moves. This is an amoeba, and it moves kind of by pumping its cytoplasm around, and you can see the organelles inside there, which are stained. Okay, and they're moving through this cytoplasm. Okay, so this organism moves by pumping the cytoplasm around. Okay, so the cytoplasm is the jelly or liquid inside the cell. Very cool, I like that one. Okay, the cell membrane. Now we're going to talk more about the cell membrane next week, okay, week 13. But the thing you know now is it's semi-permeable. Okay, that means it lets some things in and keeps other things out. Okay, so it uses different proteins to selectively let substances in and out. Okay, And it's also known by a couple other names you should know. So if you hear the term plasma membrane or the phospholipid bilayer, okay, for right now, that basically is the same thing as cell membrane. Next week, we'll get into the distinction between those terms, okay, and we'll talk more about these proteins. Okay, so here's a little video on this.
Between the living machinery of the inner cell and the harsh conditions of the outside world stands the cell's plasma membrane. As crucial as this barrier is, it's surprisingly flexible. Push it and watch it move. Poke hard enough and it might break and begin to regroup. The lipid molecules of the membrane naturally assemble in a double layer because their tails repel water as their heads attract it. Throw in some cholesterol and a few carbohydrates, and you have the basic structure of a plasma membrane. Within these lipid molecules, we also find different proteins which do various things for the cell. For instance, they receive signals from the world outside, or they transport nutrients and waste. So nature composes the membrane with a combination or mosaic of different lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. And these molecules are not stationary. They constantly move within the structure, fluidly changing their positions. The survival of all life rests on this veil of material. A supple membrane, just 2 molecules thick.
Okay, so the cell membrane is very cool. It's complex. Okay, all cells have it, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Okay, and again, we're going to talk more about this next week. Okay, so just be prepared for that. Okay, the ribosomes. Okay, the ribosomes are composed in 2 parts: the part RNA and part protein. So you got to put these things together like Legos. Okay, and this is a cellular machine that assembles proteins. A cellular machine that assembles proteins. Okay, and that process is called translation. And we'll talk about this in a few weeks after we finish up the cell. Okay, and so here's 2 pictures. So this is kind of what it looks like. The green part here, that's the actual ribosome. The ribosome makes proteins by reading a piece of RNA, which is this filament right here, and then it makes the protein right here, which is just a chain of amino acids. So we learned about amino acids a couple weeks ago when we talked about macromolecules. Okay, so protein is a macromolecule and its monomer is amino acids. So that's what the ribosome does. It stacks these amino acids to form proteins. Again, we'll talk more in detail about that in a few weeks. Okay, and then here's kind of a cool electrograph of this. These blobs right here are the ribosomes. The string that's connecting them is the RNA. So many of these can fit on a single piece of RNA, and then these chains coming out here and here and here, that is the protein being made, or the polypeptide chain. Okay, so kind of a cool picture, very small again. All right. Along with the ribosome, another very important thing is the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, if the ribosome is like the worker in the factory that's physically assembling the protein, the endoplasmic reticulum is like the factory where it's being made. Okay, and there are 2 types of endoplasmic reticulums. Okay, the rough ER. Okay, this is where proteins are made. Okay, by and large, like 90% of proteins are made at the endoplasmic reticulum. The other 10% are just made in the cytoplasm. Okay, but here it is right here. So you have this folded membrane, and then these dots on it are all the ribosomes. Okay, and the ribosomes dock with the endoplasmic reticulum. So here's the endoplasmic reticulum. They dock, and then they make the protein that they kind of inject it into the endoplasmic reticulum. And then once inside the endoplasmic reticulum, there are other proteins that kind of help shape it. They can put different proteins together. Okay, lots of different things that can modify them there. Okay, so again, most proteins are made at the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER. Okay, this is where hormones and lipids are made. Okay, so rough ER is proteins, smooth ER is hormones and lipids. Okay, and so hormones and lipids typically are exported out of the cell. So a lot of these things are packaged and transported to the Golgi, which I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so when you're looking at this under a microscope, the smooth ER doesn't have these dots or these ribosomes on it. Okay, so the rough ER looks rough because it has ribosomes. Okay, now the Golgi, or the Golgi, depending on how you want to talk about it, the Golgi apparatus. This packages macromolecules for transport out of the cell. Okay, mostly this is lipids and hormones, but sometimes proteins. Okay, and so you'll find this normally right next to the cell membrane. Okay, and it breaks off in these things called vesicles. Okay, and that's what it ships it out in. Okay, and it kind of looks, I always think it looks like stacked plates in my cupboard. Okay, it's not twisted like a endoplasmic reticulum. It's kind of stacked plates is what it looks like. Okay, and the Golgi makes these secretory vesicles. Okay, and that's what it packages these macromolecules in. Okay, and it's just better to show you this. So here's a paramecium, and it's going to look like it's pooping out here, but really that's the Golgi shipping things out in these secretory vesicles. So here we go, and you see it right down here at the bottom. Oops. Okay, so those things that are leaving there, that was the secretory vesicles. Okay, pretty cool. All right, the mitochondria. The mitochondria, this is the power center of the cell. Okay, this is where cellular respiration takes place. And again, we're going to talk about this in great detail about 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, now let me lay this down on you here. This is the formula for cellular respiration. C6H12O6, which is sugar. Okay, it takes oxygen, and then it converts this into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Okay, so you're going to have to memorize this, not this time, but in a few weeks. Okay, but the mitochondria takes sugar and oxygen, and it makes energy, carbon dioxide, and water for the cell. All right, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to break it so you guys can, touch up your notes, and I'll start again with comparing plant and animal cells. All right.